My name is Ben Domain, Managing Editor with WestfordCAT, and here's the October 22nd edition of WestfordCAT News. A public workshop for the MBTA Communities Act will be hosted by the town of Westford later this month. The regulation requires that MBTA communities and MBTA adjacent communities, like Westford, to create a new zoning district to allow for multifamily housing as of right. The town is not obligated to construct new units after creating the overlay district. According to the Office of Attorney General Andrea Campbell, communities that do not comply with the new regulation could risk civil action and liability under state and federal fair housing laws. The regulation does not provide a mechanism for communities to opt out of the requirements. The public workshop will include background information on the new law, share work on the project to date, and explore options for multifamily zoning in Westford. The workshop will be held on October 26th at 6:30 p.m. at Stony Brook Middle School. Voters approved funding for a workforce housing project on Boston Road and rejected a bylaw that would regulate firearms businesses at October's special town meeting. Article 6, which would allow the Select Board to enter into a grant agreement for up to $1.45 million in Community Preservation Act funds for a workforce housing project at 70 Boston Road, passed 627 to 406. Now, the Select Board and the Drew Farmhouse Incorporated, led by resident Ellen Hardy, must draft a grant agreement and establish terms to release the appropriated funds. Quote, "There will be a regulatory agreement between the Drew Farmhouse Inc. and the Select Board," Town Manager Kristen Lass said. This regulatory agreement will establish how the housing lottery would operate, who would manage the lottery, and who would be eligible to enter the lottery for an apartment. The Drew Farmhouse Inc. would create 5 apartments for individuals making 100% or less of the area median income. Habitat for Humanity of Greater Lowell would also create a condominium for a Habitat-eligible family to purchase. Article 9, which would have created new buffer requirements between certain businesses and schools, established operating hours, and set a limit on the number of firearms businesses that could operate in Westford, failed to garner a 2/3 majority. The proposal failed to pass, with 590 voters voting in favor of the proposal and 477 voting against the bylaw proposal. After the article failed, Chief of Police Mark Chambers motioned to reconsider Article 9 with the intention of later reintroducing an amended version that only retains a 500-foot setback between firearms businesses.
But I would like to propose a substantially less restrictive version of the bylaw, but will still advance the interests of public safety. For those of you that saw the article in the Boston Globe today, they basically termed it the frame game that was being played over by some of the dealers over in the Littleton Mill building. That was the impetus for the start of my request to propose a bylaw back in February. It's because of that frame game where some dealers would provide certain parts of the firearm and other dealers would provide another part of a firearm, and essentially skirt the mass-approved firearm regulations. That was the intent of when I brought the request for the bylaw forward, and that's why I would like to propose a less restrictive version of the bylaw to address the public safety issue that has been demonstrated in neighboring communities.
After protests from residents against the regulations and concerns about double voting, Chambers withdrew his motion to reconsider the article.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's evidently been some double voting. I'm going to call the vote off, and Chief Chambers.
I'm going to withdraw my motion.
Officials, like Planning Board Chair Mike Bonifant, said he is, quote, "embarrassed about how the town behaved." Quote, "I feel bad for our moderator for dealing with the rudeness. I would support the Chief's amendment," he told WestfordCAT. The Planning Board had previously endorsed the article in a 4-1 vote on October 2nd, with Bonifant casting the dissenting vote. Additionally, the Select Board had unanimously endorsed the proposal during a September 26th meeting. Select Board Chair Tom Clay said the board was, quote, "clearly disappointed with the result." Quote, "I think we learned a lot tonight, and we learned a lot about the challenges of running a meeting with this much interest," he said. Chambers told WestfordCAT that he is, quote, "just disappointed with the result." Quote, "There were certain goals when we started this, but it unfortunately didn't happen the way we hoped," he said. All other articles passed by a majority vote. Did you know that writer and poet Edgar Allan Poe spent quite a bit of time in Westford? A new monument by Westford firefighter and EMT David Christiana is set to be unveiled soon. The unveiling of this new monument will take place on October 29th at 2 p.m. at the Parish Center for the Arts. Next week, hear about a Westford Academy senior who earned one of just 23 perfect scores on his advanced placement exam. That's all for this week. I'm Ben Domain, and you're watching WestfordCAT News.